Hello everyone, this is Mr. B with Algebra 2 Homework 3.1, Graphing Systems of Equations. We'll jump straight into it. You'll see me throughout this whole homework trying to convert these into point-slope form. That's the easiest one for me to graph, at least most of the time. It will be for you as well, unless something's already in point-slope form, like we have on number 2. This is in point-slope form. We know the slope is -1/5, and we can figure out the point that it intersects would be 2, -2. We'll get there though when we get there, so don't stress about that for now. Let's just start at number 1. All right, like I said, get this into point-slope form. I'm going to subtract 2.5x from both sides. And when I'm trying to get into point-slope form, I like to leave my x's out front so I don't need to move them around later. Right? Divide everything by 5. That includes the negative 2.5x and the 5. I've seen a few of you skip on that step. So make sure that we're dividing everything on both sides. So we'd get y equals -1/2 x plus 1. It's pretty easy for us to graph. Intercept is +1. Slope is -1/2. That'll give us, let's see, a change of y is 1. Change of x is -2. Give us something that looks kind of like that. The next one, really we just need to multiply both sides by -1. That would give us -x equals y, or y equals -1x plus 0. If we really want to think of every aspect of it, slope is -1, intercept is 0. So let's do that. Let's see, with a slope of -1, we should come into contact with an exact point here. Oh, there we go. All right, it may not look like it, but that's just my error. The intersection of these 2 points will be -2, 2. And we can check that by plugging in any points. We can even just think about it. If we plug in 2 for x, then 2 would have to be -2 for it to, I'm sorry, if we plug in -2 for x, y would have to be 2. Let me write down the point before I misspeak again. And if we plug it in on this side here, we would have, let's see, 10 plus, or -10 plus, let's see, let's just solve it out. I'm trying to do this in my head. That's not going to work. Let's see, we have 5 times -2 plus 2.5 times +2 equals 5. So we would get -10 plus 5 equals 5. That doesn't work. Did I flip my points around? I did. It would be -2, +2. So if we get rid of that and we made this negative, we would get 10 minus 5. All right, 10 minus 5 does equal 5, so it does check out. I'm glad I double checked on that. That would have been an embarrassing mistake. All right, let's jump on to the next one. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, this one is in point slope form, and we can figure out that the point here, I don't want to make the same mistake. This would be +2. That's probably what I was thinking, and -2. And the slope equals -1/5. So let's graph that here. We would have 2, -2 right down here with a slope of -1/5. Let's see, change of y would be 1, and we'd have to go over 5. Looks something like this. That's not a very good line. Let's try that one more time. There we go. All right. This next one can be a little bit tricky. I already know it's not going to go into point slope form because I made the homework, but we'll kind of show you how I can get there. So if we were to subtract x, well, it will get into point slope form. We can always get it into point slope form, but graphing the individual point can be kind of challenging, the intercept at least. Let's see, we'll subtract x from both sides. That would give us -5y equals -x plus 2. We can divide both sides by -5. That's totally legal. We can absolutely do that. So that would be y equals 1/5 x. So that's an easy slope for us to manage. But then we'd have, let's see, it'd actually be minus 2/5. So our y-intercept would be somewhere down, like right about here, which is just going to be challenging for us to graph. So I'm going to just kind of figure out a few exact numbers here. If we plug in a whole number for y, that's going to be a little bit easier for us to find a whole number for x, because if we plug in 1 for x, we could be left in the same situation. We could be left with like 2/5 or 3/5 y in the value. So if we plug in a whole number for y, because it's just kind of larger, I guess, we'll have 5 or 0 plus, it'll just work out, trust me. So I'm going to plug in a y value here. So I'm going to plug in 0 first. 0 is my go-to number. It's going to just eliminate a lot of our problems. So 0 plus x equals 2. Well, that worked out. We have a point 2, 0. So we'd be right here. And at this point, we can actually stop. We know a point. We know the slope. Easy enough. Let's go 1/5. Oh, it'll actually line up with one of the points that we already graphed. How perfect. Let's graph this here. And that would be our intersecting point. And that would be, let's see, -3, -1. -3, -1. And we can check that in both of our equations if we want to. I'm not requiring you guys to, but if you'd like to, you absolutely can. X equals -3, y equals -1. All right. Oh, didn't mean to do that. Meant to scroll down. Here we go. All right. Another system of equations. Let's get this one into point slope form, or slope intercept form. I'm going to, let's see, add 10 to both sides. So we get -5y equals x plus 8. Then we're going to be kind of left in the same situation. We're going to divide this side by -5, this side by -5 as well. And we'll be left with a slope that we can manage, but an intercept that's going to be challenging. So we'll have, let's see, -1/5 x plus 8/5. Well, we know the slope. That's important. That's going to help us. All right, now we just need to find a point. Let's see, I'll plug in 0 for y again. Again, that's the larger of the two, so more often than not, we're going to come up with a more round number. So we'll try that out. I'm going to plug it into this original equation just because I'll be dealing with fractions if I plug it into our modified one. But we know the slope, so we got something out of this. Let's see, we'll plug in 0, so it'll just be -10 equals x minus 2. And I'm doing that because -5 times 0 just equals 0, so we can kind of ignore it. Now we would add 2 to both sides. And we would have, let's see, x equals -8. Well, that's still off of our graph. There is a way that we can solve this, though. We know that the point that we're at is -8, 0. Now remember, slope is just change of y, change of x. So if we want to increase this x, we need to decrease the y. So if we add on 5 to the x and take away 1 from the point, that'll be, or 1 from the y, this will just be another point on our line. So if we take this and from our slope, we add 5 and subtract 1, we'd have -3, -1. That is a point that we can graph on our grid here. So we'll go to that point, -3, -1, right here. We already know the slope, -1/5. This looks like a suspiciously similar line. It's actually the same exact one that we graphed earlier, just laid out differently. And you'll find that is pretty common. You'll see different equations for the same exact line in algebra. All right, this next one I think I made a little bit easier, so no sweat. Let's see. We'll subtract 3x, subtract 3x. We'll get 2y equals negative 3x plus 2. Divide each side by 2. And we'll have y equals negative 3 halves plus 1. 2 over 2 is just 1. So our intercept is 1, and we have a slope of negative 3, positive 2. That's going to take us straight down to this point here. So I'm going to graph that line. Uh-oh. Sorry, everything moved. Oh, geez, what did I do? There we go. Okay. So I'll graph this point here. All right. Yeah, it's going to intersect right there at the point. That is going to be negative. Nope, that's not negative 2. That's positive 2, negative 2. There we go. All right. Halfway done. Moving on to the next one here. All right. So for this one here, I'm just going to try and get it into point slope form. I'm going to distribute the 5 first. So I'll get 5y minus 6 equals, and I'll distribute the 2 here all in one go, 2x plus 4. I'm going to, let's see, add 6 to each side. That'll give us 5y equals, let's see, 2x plus 10. I'll divide each side by 5. This is going to work out pretty nice for us. Y equals 2/5 x, so that's the slope, 2/5, plus 2. So we have a slope of, or an intercept of 2, a slope of 2/5. So we'll have, let's see, change of y and change of x. We're going to get this point here and this point here. Pretty much spans the whole graph here. Let's see. All right. This one already is in point slope form. Oh, but what do we see here? It's going to graph us the same exact line. So, I mean, I can just draw this over again, but you guys will get the idea. It's going to be the same exact line. I'm not going to do it perfectly, so I'll just leave that second line off there. But it would graph right on top of each other. So this would be infinite solutions. I mean, the solution for this would be this, because that is the relationship between x and y that would give us any valid solution. So, I mean, I would just circle this or square it and say, this is the solution. All right, moving on to the next one here. Let's see. All right, this one here is in point slope form, and this other one actually is going to be in slope intercept just by subtracting 3x. So I'll do that one here. So negative 3x plus 9. That's going to be way off the grid. So we'll have to do something with this here in a little bit, but we'll get there when we get there. This first one, though, will be a little bit easier to graph. The x value would be negative 3, and the y value would be positive 2. So we'd be at negative 3, positive 2, right here with a slope of negative 3. Let's see. It's going to give us something that looks a little bit like this. All right, again, not exact, but that's okay. So let's see. Actually, I can figure something out here. If we have a intercept of 9, but our slope is actually the same. We have negative 3 slope here and negative 3 slope here. If these are not the same line, then there would be no solution. So let's try and figure out if these are the same line. Let's see, I'm going to try and pick a, let's see, what x value? Well, let's do 0. Here. If I plug in a 0 for y, I would have negative 3x plus 9. I would subtract 9 from each side. So I have negative 9 equals negative 3x. Then I would divide each side by negative 3. And I would get x equals 3. This would give me the point 3, 0. 2, 3. Oh, we'd be really, really close, but not quite. But we know that this is one of the points. The slope for this would be -3. So we would have two parallel lines that do not intersect. So for this, we would say no solution. All right, and the final one here. This one actually, I think, is going to be pretty clean as well. So I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides. So we get 3y equals -3x plus 3. Divide everything by 3. That would give us y equals 1x plus 1, if we wanted to think of it in terms of, negative x, negative 1x. We'll graph this one with a slope of -1. Something that looks kind of like that. This one's already in point slope form, so we'll go down to -2 and give ourselves a slope of +5. Let's see. Something that looks like this. This one, I believe, intersects at 0.5, 0.5. And that's it for this homework. If you guys do have extra questions, which is totally understandable, we're kind of breaking into newer or more advanced content here in Algebra 2, bring them up in class when I see you guys next. All right, we'll see you there.